max set for Monday?
Max Monday.
I just got it set as chest training. Let me make sure it's on Twitter.
Yes, I mean, I can
Let's rock. Oh yeah, boy. Mic check, mic check.
Check.
Yeah, you sound good, D.
All right.
Yeah, boy. Live there. Live everywhere.
Worldwide live.
Yeah, right?
We're on channel 2, 4, 6, 8, and 13 if you get the dial.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, so you want to go check the audio coming through on Twitter? All right, so we're going to talk chest training. It's International Chest Day, D.
Well, the funny thing about International Chest Day, I don't do chest. I don't do chest on International Chest Day.
I don't either, which is funny, but most of the world does. So that's, if you want to pull that mic back towards you, or just bring your chair towards us.
You know what, I'm just gonna do one of these numbers right here.
Yeah.
And just set up like this.
Yeah, you want, or you can move your chair if you need more room. Not that. Sorry. So International Chest Day, we're going to talk chest training. So what's interesting is really the way that we started training together was based around bench day.
It was. Bench day was like Monday and
Yeah.
probably Wednesday and Friday as well.
Quite possibly true.
Yeah. And yeah, it was just kind of like you knew that was when the week started. You were going to do chest. There was never any question about like, is it leg day? Or are we going to pull? No, it was like,
we're benching. It's fucking Monday.
We're benching. It's Monday, you know? And I think that's really still the way a lot of the world operates.
I would say most of the world operates that way.
Right.
I think that I operate with back on Mondays just because I'm trying to set my, support structure up for Tuesdays. But the reality is most people bench on Mondays.
Yeah. I can't remember when I kind of made the switch to doing bench on Tuesdays, but I think, definitely with my athletes, kind of my thinking was I want to make sure they pull on Mondays. We get a lot of back stuff in. So that way we can hit lower body again, really heavy later in the week. So kind of just from a generic thinking, it's, we deadlift on Monday and then they squat on Friday.
Yeah. No, that's good. Talk about early chest days. So both of us had good strength. We did, bench meets in high school. Both of us benched 300 pounds before we left high school. I was about 170. You were in the 140s, which was pretty amazing.
Right.
So it's like, what do you think contributed the early to our chest training success? And then how's it evolved over time?
So if I had to say probably the biggest difference between like the way we think about chest training now and the way we did then, back then, I think it was all volume.
Yeah.
You're
right. It was,
so we would still max out maybe every couple months or something like that, but we weren't regularly doing like heavy doubles, singles.
Yeah.
It was more about like, let's put, if we were lifting at my house with the small bar that had the 50-pound plates, it's like, let's put the 50s on there, maybe the 50s and the 25s, and do 3 sets. See who can get the most reps every set. Yeah, it was a competition every set. So there was never just like, hey, we're going to see who maxes more next week. It was like every set we were competing rep for rep. And so I know I would always kind of feel like even if you beat me on the early sets, if I could somehow get one more rep than you in the last set, I felt like I won the workout.
Yeah, you're right. It's always about the last set, not
about the last set, the best set for sure. So that's kind of how I remember, it was a lot of volume, a lot of competing. And we also really, I think even for being pretty young and inexperienced at that time and not having, the access to knowledge that people have now, we still did a really wide variety of movements. We were doing pressing movements, flying movements. We were doing lots of dips,
lots of dips.
So we weren't really, just one dimensional. It wasn't just bench. It was like its own holiday, chest day.
I think if I remember like being in your garage, literally going like, all right, today's 210 pounds.
Right.
We're going to do 3 sets, as many as we can go. And like, whoever goes first, you're fucked, basically. Like, that's how it felt. Cause if like you got 8, I was going to get fucking 9 or vice versa. So that competitiveness early had to change the game for us.
Oh, it did for sure. I can remember being, and you got to remember, we're 16, 17 years old. I can remember being so mad if you would beat me on chest day when you leave. Like, I would almost want to cry. And I would be like kind of mad at you, like low key, like not like you for a day or
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like I knew it was childish, so I had to like kind of like swallow those feelings. But that's how serious we took it.
Yeah, we did take it that serious. That's fucking amazing. But that volume, probably, if you think back, the competitive volume was really helping our triceps and our lockout a lot too, because we were getting that level of push too, which because I wasn't really training my triceps for a lockout at that point. We always have trained mostly like bodybuilders,
Right.
until I kind of got on some of the West Side stuff. But the reality is those extreme competition days are probably what got us ready for the heavy stuff.
Well, I think it was kind of a double-edged sword. It probably prepared us in a lot of ways, and it built that competitive fire. But it also probably put a lot of unnecessary mileage on our shoulders. You know,
Yeah, I would say.
I mean, my shoulders feel better now lifting heavy all the time than they did doing all that volume. I think all that volume and with, I mean,
90% volume too.
Yeah.
That's we were doing volume with the the heaviest we could at that point. It wasn't
Right,
like we're
right.
doing, pump work or something.
Well, and I think too at that age we didn't really understand how to dial it back when we needed to. Like if you came down and was like, "Hey,
No.
we're putting 210 on the bar and we're doing sets for reps," it doesn't matter like how bad my shoulder
No.
hurt. We were going to do it.
Yeah,
So.
Well, and I remember we watched your dad, like Dustin's dad and Paul the Doll were the two guys I ever saw bench 300 pounds first.
Right.
My dad benched like in the two. Well, they said he benched 300, but I never saw it. And my grandfather benched like around 270. But all that was done by the time I was older, so I never really saw a person in person bench 300 pounds. So I came to your garage. And I was like, I want to be like those guys so bad.
Dude, they seem so monstrous at the time,
Yeah.
which is hilarious. But
Which also goes to show why that high school age, being around guys that know how to lift, like how impactful it can be on you, which is what we get to do all the time.
I mean, it can shape you for the rest of your life.
Did us.
So that I think that is also, not to kind of stray away from the topic here, but that can be so important. Why, as a young lifter, a young athlete, you're around the right influences too.
Yeah, true.
You think about we were never influenced by like the steroid crowd or
No.
things like that, but it's because
We
and
weren't
we may
around
have
it.
been if we grew up somewhere else or with other
Yeah, it's
role
true.
models in the gym,
Yeah.
But yeah, man, my dad's, we had that old 20-pound bar. I thought it was titanium. I asked him about it the other day. It's actually stainless steel.
Okay.
But someone from the titanium plant in Toronto made it for
That
him.
makes sense.
But it's 20 pounds. It's the same size like the old small hold weights. And it had a ton of flex in it. So when you bring it down, you could just whip that bar right back up. And he had those old 50-pound York plates with the small holes. And I remember watching him hit 320, which I think was his top max ever.
Which would be 3 plates like that on the
plates,
bar. Okay.
So it looked so cool. And man, that bar like wrapped all the way down at the bottom.
So good.
Yeah. And so I think he only got that maybe once or twice. And then I ended up getting, I always say I benched 320 before I benched 315. Because I could do 320 on that bar. But at the time on the Olympic bar, I might not even been able to get 300, maybe like 285.
That whip made a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. But those like times are where you really, I think, early on, you're digging deep for like to make your dad proud. Competition versus me or Jody or Luke or whoever it was, or Anwa for a while when he would come down and get after it. Like, I think like that set us up. That's why like I'm so excited to be training with AG and some of his buddies.
Oh yeah.
And even at at 8 o'clock at night, a lot of times I'm like smoked from getting up at 3 a.m. But I realize the next 2 years that's so important for their, kind of their lifting moving forward.
No, it's going to shape them as weightlifters probably for the rest of their lives.
For sure. Just like Coach Hoove did for us and your dad.
So let me ask you this. What do AG and those guys, because now they got a high level world-class coach and you working with them. What do they think about chest day? Do they value it the same way we did, or do they understand kind of where it falls in the scheme of things?
Well, because a lot of them play baseball, I've explained that I want to do supporting structure stuff early in the week without pressing. A lot of them press with a little closer grips, obviously, because we know better, right? But
we didn't even know what supporting structure meant.
Yeah, exactly. They, the upper back work. And I think that because once again, we didn't understand the leg training like we do now.
Right.
So they get excited to front squat and pull and things like that we didn't even fucking do, which is hilarious. But yeah, it's weird because a lot of these guys are better at the lower body lifts at younger ages than most people are at upper body for the most part, right? So that stuff's a little bit behind compared to where we were because that's all we really did.
Right.
So that's the one thing I can see the difference in, that our upper body lifts are a lot, but those guys' lower body lifts are way like, dude, I couldn't front squat 300 pounds when I was in high school.
Wow.
I didn't even fucking front squat. I didn't even back squat that often, let alone, so it is a big shift, but it's because of the knowledge.
Right.
But when chest day does come around, they are super fired up, and that's when they get more competitive. At least AG and his buddies, like, and I stoke the fire too. I'll be like, yo, like, I don't think AG got you today, Drew. Like, what's up? They're like, oh, Mr. Gregory, you're always trying to stoke the fire. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to give them that little edge, but it bugs them, and it's good for them. You know what I mean? So I like to push that, and I think that they already understand that process so much better than we did, Dust. It's actually staggering.
It is staggering. It's like night and day. I mean, some of the high school kids that I train now, I feel like they know more than I did even after I was working as a full-time trainer for like 5 to 8 years. You know what I mean? Like
I agree. I'm the same way.
Yeah, like we were really just trying to figure it out. But you made a good point though about kind of the disparage between the upper body and the lower body. I have high school kids. I even have junior high kids that are pulling in the mid fours on deadlift. But I don't think I've had a high school kid yet bench 300 pounds like you and I both did in high school.
Yeah.
So how is that we were able to do that with basically just meathead knowledge, and we just lifted like animals and really didn't know what we were doing, but we both could bench 300 pounds at a really young age. And these kids that I'm training using all these advanced methods, I mean, yeah, they're blowing us out of the water, lower body wise, and just overall strength and and athleticism, but they can't bench 300 yet.
I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a bigger deal then. Benching 300, I think, is always a pinnacle.
Right.
But maybe because the lack of understanding around lifting was like, I don't know. Or maybe it was just like our culture of where we're from.
These kids all love bench too, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, they get fired up for
but
bench
they're
day.
probably, you think they want to talk about their deadlift more than their bench? Or no?
You know what it probably is? I think I just answered my own question. We do chest once a week.
Yeah. And
we're doing it the right way. So even what we were doing was maybe not right, and it might have been detrimental in some ways. We legit did high volume, heavy bench 3 days a week.
Which is how Arnold and those guys did it, which is
correct.
What you guys got to understand too is that our available knowledge was what was in the muscle magazines, because there's no internet. And from what your dad's teaching or what I saw my grandpa do,
he just learned it from the muscle magazine.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's like what was being fed to us was that.
Right.
So that's all we knew, which, I'm sure like our structure around our shoulders, obviously I had some injuries and you've got through some dings here and there, but the volume we did put on them early was pretty wild, probably comparatively. So
yeah. So maybe to be fair, if I had them benching 3 days a week, maybe they would be benching 300 pounds. But
would they be better athletes?
They would be better at wrestling. No.
So it's like it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
That we made.
I guess they'd probably rather be a state champion than just to be able to say they bench 300 pounds.
That would be my guess. But I think that they'll probably hit those numbers later in life. But then you got guys like Colin who bench like 350.
375 this summer.
He benched 375?
Yeah. So I put together this new bench program this summer. It was a 6-week thing. Dude, every one of my group went up like 20 to 25 pounds.
What do you think was the main contributing factor, D?
So, I had them doing, here's the thing. I brought in a little bit more volume. We would do dumbbell volume on the weekend.
Okay.
So like, heavy sets of 10. And then I just did kind of like just a periodization.
Pyramid.
I utilized, I would do eccentrics for 2 weeks, and we made sure we'd overload on those eccentrics. So if your projected max was going to be 315, we were doing our negatives with like 335.
I like it.
So we would do, I kind of followed a little bit of like what Dietz did, like the triphase stuff. Yep. So we would do two weeks of eccentrics, 2 weeks of isometrics, and then we would do kind of like speed work, maybe like a week of speed work, and then we'd max out for a week.
That's cool.
So we did 2 6-week cycles like that. But I also kind of had it really dialed in as far as, if we did triples this week, the next week was doubles, but maybe the eccentrics would be triples, stuff like that. So, but yeah, Colin was at 350 for like 2 years, and he jumped to 375 this year. Caleb Romero went from like 345 to 365.
That's good.
And how it is, like once you, like, it's easy to go from like 205 to 225.
Yeah.
But once you're over 3 to the mid 3s, like every 5 pounds is like
it's
a fight,
a lot.
So even like with me, I hadn't benched 315 probably since I was in my 20s, unless I weighed like 180, 185.
Yeah, to be a little beefier.
Yeah, but this summer I weighed 163, 164, and benched 315, which I hadn't done, like I said, since I was a bodybuilder. So
what I realized probably that was helpful for my bench was once I started locking on, we did tons of volume on triceps all these years too. Once I started locking on some of the heavy tricep work, which at the end of the day, I still think the skull crushers that we did heavy all those years helped a ton.
Oh yeah.
And I was telling this to Bobby V, because Bobby V is trying to get his one of the young dudes I work out with. And we were doing just push downs, and I was showcasing like the difference in my tricep strength because he's bigger than me, right? And we're doing some stuff, and I literally did like a push down with like 150 pounds more, and I was like, this is the difference of why my bench is doing. Everybody can get it off their chest, it seems like, but they can't lock out the weights.
I think a lot of young guys don't get that concept. Like even my guys in my group that are relatively strong, like if I don't stay on top of them and we get to accessory work and we're doing like dumbbell sculls, they'll grab like 25-pound dumbbells. I'm like, dude, how do you want to bench more than 275 and you're only going to grab 25-pound dumbbells for sculls? Like you got to go so heavy that it's almost pulling you off the bench.
Well, it's even when I told Matheny and Will and Tyler, all the guys are really coming up in the crew, I was like, you know, when I got hurt and I'm now working my way back up to benching again, which I'm pretty sure I'll bench 300 next couple of weeks. I was like, I tried to tell them, I'm like, I really think the difference is my tricep strength. Like you guys are all younger still, but we need to put more heavy volume in our accessory work and not slack on it. That's going to be the difference maker.
Well, you figure after a long chest workout and you get to the end and you're tired, you can do light tricep stuff and get a pump that feels good and you'll feel like you did something.
For sure.
But did you really do anything?
Yeah, no. Yeah, you gotta push the envelope. And that one thing I read about Louis' guys is whenever he was really on top of them, he made sure that every week their accessory volume went from, if it's at 30-pound dumbbells, the next week it's at 35 and 40. They're not just getting a pump and getting out.
Well, it's easy on stuff like that to just say like, I use 40s on sculls and always use the same weight every week. You know,
well, we added where I was doing, because I've always liked doing the volume where it's like nose, forehead into the bench. And so, you know, the pre-made bar set we have that just has the 10s, I started adding 20-pound kettlebells on top of just the regular bar, and just that little shake coming through on in
having to adjust to that
just a little bit, and then doing 15, dude. My freaking, you know, triceps were blowing up like back in the day, and I've made that like little change. I told the guys on my site about that, and it's been pretty cool.
So this kind of reminded me, because I always tell people how, you know, we've always gotten along so well business-wise. We've never really had any type of falling out, except for one.
The tricep fucking thing we did one time.
It was the time that you beat me on easy bar skull crushers at the old training.
And you acted like my reps weren't right.
Yeah, so I tried to call you. I tried to say that you didn't lock them out, and you said, well, I wasn't going behind my head.
Yeah.
And we for real like argued about it till like I left the training studio. I remember thinking like, I'm gonna go get a job as a trainer somewhere else. I was that mad. So the only fight, like real fight we ever had in business was easy.
But it really wasn't even about business. It was about training. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's funny.
Talk about dips and flies based around your chest training, D. Like, have you kept flies in all these years? But I know you've had dips, and I'm the opposite, so I think it'd be good to talk about that.
Yeah, so I used to do a lot of flies. I really liked, you know, the chest development I would get from them. But for whatever issues I got going on with, whether it's my supraspinatus, my labrum, whatever, any type of flying movement really bothers it. So I do a lot of ring movements, you know, ring push-ups and ring dips. I can really get that same stretch in my chest, but I can't go out wide at all. So really, like, so if I'm doing, you know, whether it's dips or whether I'm doing ring push-ups or you know, ring dips, any of that ring movements, I try to focus on squeezing at the top. But when I come down, I have to be in a neutral grip and like tucked right to my armpits. So I don't do any type of, I mean, I guess in a way, those are kind of my flying movements.
Yeah,
even
that's your stretch movement, basically.
That's a stretch movement, exactly.
Mine's kind of the opposite. I can still get in a good fly position. I used to fucking take the flies down and like lay them on the ground almost, which I don't know if you remember that shit.
Yeah,
which is, I think, how my chest grew so much. Because I always
you saw like a picture like Franco or Arnold doing the flies like that,
where they were like basically hovering the ground by like a half inch.
Yeah.
But I think it was like obviously not being super high on your shoulders, dropping them down like more like an arrow. I could always just really get good mind muscle connection with that fly motion. And I always did dips, but as I got later in my career, that's the thing I had problems with. And then after I hurt my shoulder, I really haven't been able to do it as much. But that I love the pump that you get from dips, and I'm trying to add them back in slowly. But it seems like even with that jacked up shoulder, my fly motion's still fine, which is weird.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't go as low on dips as I used to go.
Okay.
You know, so I still like, I go down to my arms are maybe at 90, but I feel like, and I'm not getting as much chest work, obviously. But if I go down to where I really get that stretch to where it feels good, like the next day my shoulder will be wrecked. So it's just kind of like a give and take. I think you got to kind of find what works for you. I think the other thing that's made a big difference in my chest training, and I think what's really helped my athletes, is we always train lats while we're training chest. Because a lot of I've always kind of intuitively known how to use my lats when I press.
For sure.
Most people do not understand how to do that.
No.
So we usually do some type of activation, whether it's, you know, heavy T-bar rows, or we'll even do like band lats, but always, you know, kind of contrasted with our heavy pressing sets, we do some type of lat work.
Well, and what we tried to follow mostly is even if it's not our actual back day, which is Mondays, we're usually hitting a 2 or 3 to 1 pressing with a ratio of like some type of shrug in between, even if it's light, some type of band pull apart, like you were saying, or some type of pull down, then the pressing. It seems like, you know, towards the end of sets, we start kind of skipping some of it, but in the earlier sets,
For sure.
to get everything warmed up, it's better that way. And I always, and this is what I'm actually getting ready to program for Get Stack 69. Nope. I don't know really what my pun is on that one, but the is going back to program either. I always did incline first. Now when me and you were battling, we did a lot of flat bench first in your garage. But the way I learned was from Arnold mostly, and it was incline first. And when my incline was strong, my flat bench always felt awesome. And with the volume sets, if I would get through my incline was strong, which both of us inclined 300 plus, then we'd come to flat bench and it feels like a joke, right? And so I'm actually going to kind of, and especially with me kind of coming back from that shoulder injury, getting a pump in that upper pec again, which I always had felt like I had good connection with too. I'm actually going to start doing incline again first over the next 4 weeks, try to work back up heavy again, and then go to flat bench and see kind of what that changes. But the last 4 weeks, I've been going on it second heavy again with heavy sets of 8 and 10, and it's felt really good.
I can remember going through kind of a phase when we were at the original old school gym where probably for like 2 or 3 years, I did incline barbell first every workout.
Yeah.
And
I always felt more jacked that way.
More jacked. I remember, and that's when we were doing like sets of 10 with 225.
Yep.
I think I got 300. I never got over 300.
Yep. I got 315, but I was pretty fat.
You might have been 240.
Yeah, I was at least 220.
No, 300 was the most I ever gotten. But I could consistently do sets of 10 with 225.
Yep.
And I really liked the way that felt. And I think I would do like 12, 10, 8, 6 on incline barbell. And then I would either go to like volume dumbbells or volume close grip. That was kind of my thing. And I did that for a couple of years. But again, like incline, I can't do any type of pressing on the incline. That bothers my shoulders. So you think about all the funky bodyweight stuff I do that I can get away with.
A bunch of shit like that.
But
bro.
dude, I can't even do 135 on our barbell incline, which I used to love, without hurting. It just it something
feels
just
weird.
doesn't set right. Yep.
Well, but I think, and this kind of comes back to when I talked to Frank Zane about training heavy or just training all these years. He goes, you're going to hurt anyway. So when you're old, you're going to hurt. So do you want to look good and be strong and have to work around stuff? Or do you just want to be like fucking basically weak and fucking out of shape and still, it doesn't matter. You are going to hurt a little bit. It's just the way it is. Like your old man's got some things that are banged up, but he's still strong. He's in good shape. Like it's just part of it, bro.
Well, dude, he still runs probably 3 days a week.
Yep.
Now he runs slow as hell.
Yeah.
And he looks like an old lady running or whatever because his knees are so shot.
Sure.
But all of his buddies his age, their knees are shot too, but theirs are shot from
and they're out of fucking shape.
They're in terrible shape. So yeah, I think your point is very valid. Like you're going to have those aches and pains and you're going to be all banged up, but do you want it to be from disuse or from using it?
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. The incline stuff, the other thing is dumbbell work. I've always been more of a barbell person. I think mostly because I just kind of did most of the golden era stuff. You've always had great results with dumbbell work. So maybe talk about, like, do you think dumbbells are what contributed to most of your size? You think, or do you think it was the combination of barbell? Because you've always done way more dumbbells than me.
For sure.
I think mine mostly is from incline. Honestly, I think I built my incline in the deep flies. I think were my two that separated my chest training. I think early in my career.
See, I think I got more of the strength from the barbell movements, but I think definitely my size and like physique came from the dumbbells.
Yeah. And because you always did a lot of heavy dumbbell work.
Well, even now, like you talk about a guy like Colin that can bench 375, I can still hang with him on dumbbell press.
Yeah.
You know, we'll go up to the 125s and I can still hit like, sets of 5 or 6.
Sure.
He might beat me here and there by like a rep, but it's not by the, 60 or 70 pounds he can beat me by on the flat bench.
Which goes to show like that right there was something that you worked on for so many years. It's always kind of there.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with just the stabilization. So you watch anyone do heavy dumbbell work, I don't care how strong they are, when they miss a rep, it never just goes straight back down. It starts to move on them.
Yeah, it's
true. They
true.
start to lose control of it. So I feel like I've always had a good understanding of how to kind of keep them turned at that angle, keep them tucked. And I almost feel like
you set it right on your lats, bro. I swear I've been watching you do that shit since we were like 15.
Yeah, I feel like my lats and triceps are connected, like they're one muscle.
They are. And it used to look like that when we were kids. I'd be looking down at you as you were benching. I'm thinking, man, that shit looks different than mine for some reason. Like, cause you always were able to lock that in way before we knew that was even a thing.
Yeah, I was just doing it on accident, I guess.
Yeah. It was good though.
Yeah.
What talk about the kind of how's the body weight stuff? Like, do you wish early in the career maybe you would have done more or less body weight? Or do you think that is should just be used as like kind of burnout accessory work, or kind of what's your view on that based around with chest stuff?
Yeah, so I look at the body weight stuff, like, now that's where I get my volume from.
Sure.
So I don't get my volume from the weightlifting stuff like we used to.
Yep.
Not very often anyway. So like most, like, barbell movements, I never go over 5 reps, but I still get my volume at least one, whether it's in the same workout and I end with like dips and rings and stuff, or I'll do a second pushing workout of the week where I won't do any barbells or dumbbells,
I like that.
but I might do 100 ring dips,
Mhm.
I'll superset, ring push-ups with different types of pull-ups, stuff like that. So I still make sure I'm getting, strength work, heavy, low volume once a week, but I'm still getting volume once a week. And that's where the body weight stuff comes in. I think, if you're going to use, weightlifting stuff as your volume, you're kind of missing out because, if I'm doing flat bench for volume, I'm not using a lot of those stabilizers like I have to with ring push-ups
Yeah.
or like dips or different calisthenic movements. So I think just kind of secondary benefit of using that body weight stuff, learning how to control your body a lot better. You're getting more than just the benefit of the push-ups and the dips, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, going through that whole process with it was the wildest thing was your body weight is when I busted up my shoulder, not being able to do a push up on my knees, like not even one, like
Like your body would just not let you
it
do
just
it.
wouldn't just with that thing. So like starting at that level about a year ago and then building back up to supporting like some type of decent loads, 275 to 300, I felt that whole process of where I was loading it up at. The bar has to be super strategic. Now being able to get a pump again it's almost like I'm relearning how I got here.
Mhm.
And because I was able to kind of get away with not doing certain things for a while because of whatever, it's been a really interesting process for the last year because everything has to be so dead on so I can get the pump. It's getting a little better because now things feel really good, but it was kind of it made me really think about how we got where we got D originally because I was like, all right, I know I lost a little bit of size in it because I wasn't able to train. I really wasn't able to train or do over 40-pound dumbbells for a while,
Right.
or 185. So for as strong as I still am, like to be able to get a true pump or get enough like deep tissue work, it was basically virtually impossible.
Right.
So that's where like now I'm able to again. So I'm re-looking at like how we got there originally, because that's really where I felt like I was not starting over, but kind of starting over in a way. So it's been kind of interesting.
It kind of, when you encounter something like this, at the end of the day, even though, things might not be the same once you're all the way back, it's actually going to make you a better weightlifter and
Every
make you a
time I
better
get hurt,
coach.
I learn so much, man. I
Right.
mean, I think sometimes you got to take the L's for the long term for the group. You know what I mean? That's the one thing. Like people underestimate certain things when I've tested so many things for so many years, as have you.
Mhm.
Like you got to be the first person to take the fire. So it's like I didn't know that we had to do bands the way we do them on front squats till I went and did it the wrong way, or till I used too much tension and hurt myself, or too like you that's how you figure it out.
Right.
And so sometimes you take the dings because you're trying to figure out the protocols. And with my shoulder, the day I heard it, I was using that fucking weird bent bar, that arc bar we got.
Yep.
And I thought it was smart to do the outside fucking grip, which I should have known better. And I was doing 3 stops with this crazy thinking my pump's going to be crazy. And that's what was, kind of basically what all the way hurt it. I think it'd been hurt for like 10 years, but the reality is it wasn't, training sets of 3. It was literally, I was testing shit to try to make us better. That's just part of it. So I'm okay with if I'm testing something to learn to get better. If I get busted up, then I'm going to learn through the process coming back. And I'm okay when I get hurt in meets, or if because that's only happened a couple times. But the reality is that's why I'm there.
Right.
I'm there for a max effort, hanging on the line, go to the hospital. I can live with that. I mean, that's just part of it.
Yeah, when you get hurt because you twist the wrong way to pick up the laundry basket because your glutes were
Yeah,
turned
fuck
off,
all that.
that's the
Yeah.
frustrating part,
Yeah. Which everyone's done that too. But the
Right.
reality is like, kind of trial by fire is part of how you, I think, be different.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's some shit that comes with that. It's not everything's always in the right plane and active and works the same way. When you're testing things, that shit happens.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Reese the other day, Reese Humphrey,
Mhm.
and he was talking about because he just competed. He came back and competed in an event,
Yeah.
and he wrestled Zane Rutherford from Penn State, who was like the world teamer at our weight or whatever. And he said he felt all right, but he almost forgot how hard it felt to be out there and compete with a high level guy.
Yeah.
But he said the main reason he did it, he said he didn't really. I mean, obviously he went into it thinking he was going to win, but he kind of knew deep down, like you can't just walk back in after 2 or 3 years away from the sport and
Sure.
beat the best guy in the country. Like it just doesn't happen.
Is that who he was matched up against?
Yeah.
Somebody that's
Yep.
okay.
So, but he said he wanted to do it because he knew it would make him a better coach because he knows that he can get these guys to go to war for him if they've seen that he's willing to put on the line the
Yeah.
same way they do. So he said even just little things like he kind of forgot how it felt like the day when you make weight and you're on your third sweat workout and you got to get back in the sauna. Like he had to kind of remind him what it was like to be in the fire. So that way he can still coach these guys at a high level and be able to identify with them like you have to as a high level coach.
Practitionership is everything. You can't forget that shit, bro. As long as I'm physically able to do the movements, I'm going to push as hard as I can. I just don't really know any other way. I don't even understand how to operate otherwise.
Yeah, I think until my Achilles like blow out of the back of my legs or something, I'm still gonna run sprints with my athletes every summer, you know, because that's just gonna be part of it.
Yeah.
So
what's your favorite go-to chest workout, D? What's the most meathead, like, you full go, you feel great, you're gonna mix it up in your garage or the original or / new old school? What would you go to?
Man, as much as I want to like give like a real technical,
No, I want the fuck, yeah.
dude, 5 sets of 10 on dumbbell press.
Okay.
So just straight up like 5 sets of 10 with the hundreds and kind of like low rest on them, almost like an I go, you go.
All right.
I actually did this, I don't know, it might have been in the spring. And I think I got all 5 sets, but I did 10 reps with the hundreds, minute off. 5 sets of 10 with only a minute rest in between. And I'll tell you what, by that
pump was
fifth,
nasty.
so nasty.
I like it.
Like I was pumped till like that evening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I could only pick one chest workout ever, it would either be that or 100 dips for time. Those would be my two favorite.
So those are the crazy pumps.
Crazy pump. Those ones feel the best.
Yeah. I still think that the original pyramid stuff on incline with that high stretch, I always talk about like there's certain items that I go back to, especially if I'm having like a bad day. Like the one thing I like about the iron, it don't care, right?
No.
So it doesn't matter what's going on in your life, but there's like this old like muscle mag I got from probably 1991 or something like that. I'll go back and there's a chest and back workout from Arnold in there. And it's like incline 12, 10, 8, supersetted with like, I don't know, V-bar pull-ups or something, like some him and Franco shit. But I think that combined with deep flies, and then I really like the illegally wide grip bench. But I got the idea from Louis, and they did like 5x5 on that, which is terrible for your shoulders. But when I looked the best right before I got hurt, I was doing 5 sets of 20 with 135, supersetted with deep flies, and then you're actually outside of the rings, and you have your feet up, so it changes the angle on your chest, and you're still going kind of above nipples, so it's still it's high but not super high. But the stretch with that wide grip, with that type of load, with the flies in between, gives you an astronomical pump. Right. And so I remember seeing some pictures where it was like there's veins and all kinds of shit going on. And
when you get that chest pump, your chest almost looks like loaves of bread.
It's fucking wild, bro. And it's always been that way.
Right.
That's why the old pictures of me like having no arms, no legs, and just this big chest. It's fucking hilarious. So it's pretty good. But what we'll have to do, D, is I think week to week when we can get together, we'll just go over different body parts.
I love it.
And keep talking training. And you guys check us out at maxsevermuscle.com. We appreciate all the support on the Black Friday deal. Was sick. Incredible. We got some great stuff coming up. And for Coach Myers, I'm your boy CoryG. We're out. Thank you.